in terms of post-mortem and security sort of checklist, as a project that has been through 2 exploits, one on BSC and one on Polygon, we thought it would be good to share our insights in terms of both the past and the present.
And we are live. Welcome everybody to the first BSCNews Security Summit. This event is going to be filled with a heavyweight lineup of BSC protocols that are looking to promote and further security. For those who are unaware of the heavyweight lineup we have from Binance Smart Chain, it's going to consist of these projects: the Binance Smart Chain community, Immunefi, SafePal, Hacken, PancakeBunny, and Untitled Wallet. Each speaker has selected a security topic that is a primary focus of their project. The goal of this security summit is to shed light on some of the most important security measures going on and to educate all DeFi users, whether beginner or experienced. All right, we're getting down to the end of the wire here. Our next protocol is a team that has unfortunately dealt with multiple exploits. And for this particular reason, we've decided to have them on for the security summit because in their past couple months of developments, they've completely overhauled their development process and kind of restructured what they think about security. And the project I'm referring to is PancakeBunny, and after a result of multiple exploits, they've shifted completely towards promoting a security regime. The protocol has taken a large effort to learn from its mistakes, and its parent company, Mound Limited, is looking to slow developments and vertically integrate to prevent exploits. Today, John, from the business development lead at Mound Limited, is going to join us to outline what they've learned from the recent flash loan exploits and how they plan to move forward. How's it going, John?
Good. How are you?
I am not too bad. Getting down to this end of this jam-packed event, and there's been a ton of information shared. You can go ahead and share your screen and jump into the presentation. And then
For sure.
I'd like to start it off with a quick kind of introduction on what Mound is and how it plays a role into how PancakeBunny plays a role into the Mound ecosystem.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm John. I'm the lead business development person for Mound and for PancakeBunny. I've been with the project ever since PancakeBunny launched, and that's back in November of last year. And essentially a brief introduction into PancakeBunny. We are a decentralized finance DeFi yield aggregator and optimizer for BSC. So we are still one of the largest yield aggregators across ETH and BSC in terms of TVL. And sort of the primary goal of our platform is to support the DeFi ecosystem and to provide users an easy way to increase their profitability across a variety of different chains. And the team has a central mission of lowering the barrier of entry to DeFi while also prioritizing safety and security. And so PancakeBunny is essentially created by Mound, and you can think of Mound as a blockchain company, a parent company, and under Mound we have a variety of different projects that I will be sharing details with throughout the presentation as well.
Perfect. We can probably jump in here into your guys's security checklist slide.
Yep, for sure. And so, I made the presentation sort of concise on purpose, and then I'll be sort of sharing the details here. So in terms of post-mortem and security sort of checklist, as a project that has been through 2 exploits, one on BSC and one on Polygon, we thought it would be good to share our insights in terms of both the past and the present. And so the first checklist we have is providing a detailed post-mortem report following an exploit and an attack. And so in our view, post-mortem reports should ideally come out within 24 hours of an exploit. And it should include every single detail of the exploit from start to finish, what sort of vulnerabilities there were. And also we recommend including a call to action, both for enhanced security as well as compensating users that were affected by the exploit. So that's exactly what we did with both of our exploits. After that happened, essentially our team was, bunkering down and having, video calls throughout the night in order to craft a detailed postmortem, but that also had sort of future plans to mitigate the same issue, as well as provide users compensation in order to sort of relieve their losses, if you will. And so the second sort of checklist that we have is a structured dev schedule. So before our exploits, our team had a very aggressive timeline in terms of development. And the main priority was to push out these innovative products as fast as possible and to get it out there in the market. But obviously, after our experiences, after dealing with two of our exploits, we have realized that security should always be prioritized above everything else. And so the checklist item that we added was alpha plus beta dev schedule. And this essentially, what it is after the devs finalize their code, they allow for an extended period of internal, and that's alpha review. And so through this alpha review, a lot of the devs, be it devs that are working on the specific project or devs that are working on other projects, they essentially come together and to test out their code. And so that's the alpha phase. And after that's done, we have another iteration in the beta phase. And that's a chance for our business ops and our marketing and all of our other teammates to essentially try out the platform, and from a user experience perspective and just from a flow perspective, does it make sense? Is there any issues, be it in the UI or be it in the smart contracts? And so that's the beta phase that we have. And after sort of numerous iterations, we're able to give feedback and further strengthen the security before the launch actually happens. And finally, the third sort of checklist that we have is a testnet launch. And what I mean by that is that, obviously, as you guys know, there's the mainnet and the testnet. And so for us, we have actually decided that prior to launching a new platform, such as Qubit. So Qubit is our new lending platform, but our team has actually launched a testnet. And the purpose of the testnet is twofold. So one is for the community and the users to gain familiarity with the platform before the mainnet launch, whether it's specifics in terms of the UI UX, in terms of, okay, how do I use this website? How do I go from collateral and figuring that stuff out? And the second sort of purpose is for the preliminary audit to be complete in order to fix any issues before mainnet. And this also goes in hand with any bug bounty programs that may be launched during the testnet phase that we've already done. And so holistically, the testnet really allows extra time for the devs to track any security issues, any bugs that the community, that the audit firm, that the bug bounty programs like Immunefi sheds lights on, and has more time to deal with the scenario before it goes live. So I think I'm done with that slide.
Perfect.
If we could go up to the next slide, that would be great.
Yeah, and I think what's most notable about this is that you guys have identified an issue and are looking to solve it. And it's not completely out of the blue, right? Like most businesses, it is a rush to get out your minimum viable product, get it out to the community, start getting feedback.
Exactly.
And so it made sense why that was the original sort of idea behind PancakeBunny. But then we had these issues, or the issues of flash loan exploits, and it kind of started to seem like, okay, it's much more important to slow down and value security and make sure that we're not just being reactive, but proactive as well. And that's kind of been a theme throughout the summit. So
for sure,
even though there has been exploits, like it's inevitable, things are bound to break. There's bound to be mistakes. I think it's particularly notable that you guys have identified a solution and are working towards it versus a lot of projects that just kind of shut down and disappear after these hacks. So that's definitely
exactly
a noteworthy point I wanted to touch on. And then I can let you get back to this last slide here.
For sure. Yeah, in terms of the last slide, the main point that I sort of wanted to bring home is that code security has no silver bullet. And what I mean by that is that there really is no single item or single action that can make a project 100% invulnerable to attacks. And so when we look at security from a project perspective, it really is a culmination of different items and actions that come together to strengthen the entirety of the project. So it isn't just one-sided, it's, multi-sided with different actors involved as well. And going through this list again, the first thing that I have is continuous cycles of audits. So in our experience, it really is important to have a continuous cycle of audits with various auditing firms. So far for us collectively across our projects, we had the pleasure of connecting with HE Labs, with Hexcellent, with Theory, PeckShield, and we're on track to get a CertIC audit as well. And so we really hope to add to this list of auditing firms as we roll out different platforms in the future. And I think having a variety of audits not only enhances security, but I think it really does build trust within the community. Because at the end of the day, you can't really have too many audits because every audit is going to be different because they're done by different people, and people and firms that have different perspectives and whatnot. So I think it really is imperative for projects to take a look at this continuous cycle of audits, especially after their platform has been updated, whether it's updating code or updating UI, UX, and whatnot. So that's that. And the next item that I have is aggressive bug bounty programs. So I think that bug bounty programs are really as effective as audits, particularly because having a well-established bug bounty program means an ongoing perpetual cycle of code review through these third-party white hats, right? And so when you think of audits, especially audits before launch, it's really a preliminary sort of view in terms of, okay, when you guys launch, what security issues do you have and how can you fix them? But once you've done that, for a period of time, after the project is launched, there really is no sort of live service, if you will, or live sort of actions taking place with people reviewing code other than our internal devs, of course. And so we've actually partnered with Immunefi. I know I've heard the Immunefi team speak previously, and we partnered with Immunefi on this front. So they are our main sort of bug bounty partner, and we've been very active with the bug bounty rollouts. And so now we have PancakeBunny, we have Polybunny, we have Qubit listed on Immunefi, and we have been actively giving out bounties, and we plan to do so in the future as well. And I think it's also important to note that, when creating a project, it's also very useful to have a sizable portion of your funds reserved for security in order to guarantee the funds for audits and for bug bounty programs and whatnot. And so this is sort of another thing that we grew from our mistakes as well, in terms of for PancakeBunny, we really didn't have a set allocation or a budget specifically for security. And so when we were launching Qubit, our team sort of discussed internally and said, hey, security is very important and it's a top priority to us. Why don't we allocate a significant chunk to security? And we've exactly done that. We've committed 3% of our entire QBT tokens into just security. So that 3% will be going towards auditing firms, will be going towards Immunefi bug bounty programs and whatnot. So I think that's also another important thing to add there. And finally, the last thing is sort of reactive and proactive solutions. And this whole summit, we've had wallets, we've had Immunefi and Hacken and other security sort of detailed firms talk to us. And I think the DeFi space is really full of proactive solutions from bug bounty programs and audits, but I think it does lack reactive ones. And although insurance platforms exist, it really is effectively impossible to insure our entire TVL. So our TVL is almost $800 million, and it really is hard to insure $800 million in the world of DeFi. And so essentially, after our exploits, our team was able to push out an extensive sort of reactionary action plan that provided insight into compensation for those affected. And at first, we created a new pool we called the PBunny pool. And that essentially provided streams of income, not only from our regular pools, but also from the team's share of fees. So we essentially, after our first exploit, we forfeited any profit that the team would take. And we gave that profit to compensate the users that were affected by the exploit. And although we were able to compensate over 18.3 million into this compensation pool, we really did want to think outside the box in order to not only add value, but also restore the community's trust. And so we came up with this idea of MND swap and the MND vault. And essentially what that is you can think of MND vault as a vault that accrues value over the entirety of our platforms. So PancakeBunny, Polygon, Polybunny, and Qubit, and all of our future projects, their tokens, or a share of their tokens, will be inputted inside the MND vault. And so through this swap, bunny holders were able to swap their bunny into MND. And by doing that, we were able to reduce the circulating supply of bunny by over 3 million tokens. And essentially, I know with the first flash loan attack that happened, there was an excess of millions and millions of tokens, bunny tokens, that were printed and then dumped via the flash loan. And so, we reacted to that by innovating and by coming up to this. And I think we're really proud of the progress that we've made in terms of cutting back supply, as well as adding value. But yeah, that's essentially what I have for the slides right now. So I just want to thank you again for having me here.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll be able to jump into some discussion here. And I think it's really notable. We didn't touch on too many reactive solutions, but I was very quick throughout the summit to mention that hacks are bound to happen. They're unavoidable. So being reactive is important. Making sure that the community is able to recoup these losses is something that is actually extremely crucial. Obviously you want to avoid hacks at all costs, but being in the DeFi space, we know that it's just something that is unavoidable. So I do think it is pretty notable. And not to put you exactly on the spot, were the rewards you guys sort of accumulated for this reaction, how close were they to covering a majority of the funds that were lost through the exploit?
For sure. So I would say that the 18.3 million, that was still a sizable chunk, but it still sort of paled in comparison to the actual funds that were lost. And then through the MND swap, essentially what we did was, what I explained earlier was PBunny was this compensation pool. So bunny holders that were affected by the exploit were given PBunny, and through PBunny, they were able to essentially get 18.3 million in rewards. And our team, saw that and said, hey, 18.3 million is still not enough to cover the entirety of the losses. And so that's why we created the MND vault and the MND token. And we committed into sort of giving the PBunny holders that were affected by the exploit a pro rata share of the MND minted. And so they were able to gain a sizable portion of the MND that was given out. And of course, MND right now, we do not have a formal liquidity set up, but we are set to do that in the future. And we envision that, once that's set up and once we have ample liquidity and a proper staking mechanism, we think the market price will definitely, see and reflect the value in that. And accounting for that, I would say we definitely have done a very good job in terms of recouping a sizable portion of the losses.
Yeah, and I think, or what I got from the presentation is that it's fairly notable that you guys are identifying these solutions moving forward and also trying to, as best as you can, kind of reprimand and compensate users that were affected by these things. Just for a little bit more concrete and specific example, the development of Qubit has definitely seemed like it's undergoing sort of this new slow development process. Can you potentially shed some light on where the development process is with that lending and borrowing protocol and the idea of vertical integration?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, I would love to. So in terms of the developer for Qubit, we had already launched our testnet, I believe a few weeks ago. around 3 weeks ago. And then throughout that period of the testnet, we immediately launched Qubit, the testnet version, on Immunefi. And also in conjunction with that, we've partnered with PeckShield, one of the notable auditing firms, for the Qubit audit. And so in terms of the development, we've already received and published the audit from PeckShield, and some changes were made in order to strengthen security, obviously. And so we're at a point where the devs do feel pretty comfortable because we have an audit. We know what to change, and we've had a lengthy period of a testnet where both the developers and the ops team and the community has given feedback, extensive feedback to the developers. And essentially over the past 3 weeks and into the next week as well. So for a period of 1 month, the developers have been able to essentially iterate and take feedback and to build the platform better. And so we are actually launching on the 24th of August. So that is our mainnet launch date. And I would say the devs are pretty hopeful right now. So it looks good.
Perfect. That's nice to hear. And it's cool to see you guys incorporate these new things you've learned after the exploits. And kind of just to jump back a little bit to reactive solutions, what was sort of the hardest thing moving forward from the exploit, and how was the team able to rally together and come to a conclusion or a solution?
For sure. So I would say the hardest thing was definitely reputation and image. I think being attacked twice definitely, takes a hit on your image and your reputation. But our team is very motivated, and from the start we knew that even if an exploit had happened, we were not giving up. And period. And as you mentioned before, there are many projects that after they suffered a sort of debilitating attack, essentially they just shut down and they're not able to operate. But we really sort of stuck our heads together. We spent 12 plus hours creating a detailed compensation plan, but also creating and testing out multiple different scenarios in terms of, okay, which specific reactionary plan would work best for the ecosystem. And we really did think about everything. We thought about creating a new bunny token, creating a new page and whatnot. And we had to consider everything from ample liquidity to the bunny price to compensation and the future and security measures and whatnot. So I think in terms of moving forward from the exploit, what the team really did well was taking the necessary measures to have a structured dev schedule and continuous audits and bug bounty programs, but also to sort of looking past that exploit and to continue to innovate and add value for compensation, whether it's the P-Bunny compensation pool or the MND, so that users feel more comfortable and feel like they've at least recovered some of their lost funds. And so they can continue using our platform.
Yeah, and obviously community faith is one of the largest things that exploits affects. Obviously, there's still going to be community members that are upset, and with the loss of funds, is there any sort of reinsurance or further compensation, maybe outline on the MND vault? I know you were touching on that. Is there any other compensation or innovation that the team plans to bring out on top of that?
For sure. So talking about compensation, I guess one other thing to highlight is that compensation is tricky as well, because the team really had to think about balancing supply, the bunny price, the future of the ecosystem, as well as compensation. Because when we're talking about compensation, we're essentially giving out or minting tokens out of thin air, and giving it to users, which means that the supply will definitely increase, right? And so because of the exploit and because the supply drastically increased and the price essentially plummeted, we had to figure out a way to balance reducing supply drastically and bringing the bunny price up, while at the same time providing an extensive amount of compensation. And so what our team sort of realized is that, after P-Bunny, with the 18.3 million, that obviously wasn't enough. So we came up with the MND vault. And so we sort of concluded that MND would sort of be the last sort of round of compensation for the PancakeBunny exploit users that were affected. And our reasoning behind that was, again, the balance of supply and the balance of, okay, how much should we compensate and how much should we sort of aggressively push to reduce the supply and to get the ecosystem back and running like it was before the exploit, right? And so that's sort of what the team has thought about.
Yeah, that's definitely a tricky subject. It's balancing sort of, it's very similar just for yield farming in general, balancing the tokenomics with the incentive.
Exactly.
So I think it's commendable that you guys went ahead and you did do this compensation plan and you're furthering it with the MND vault. And at the end of the day, it kind of just comes down to the compensation just continues as long as PancakeBunny continues to innovate. And it sounds like that's something you guys are on track and doing with the launch of Qubit and just further developments in the protocol. So it definitely is an ongoing thing. At the end of the day, it's horrible that users lost their funds, but I think it's extremely commendable that the PancakeBunny team and the Mound team kind of just didn't close up shop and leave. It takes a lot to sit there in the line of fire and try to think out these things, because at the end of the day, money was drained from the ecosystem and you can't just magically make it come back. So there's only so many things you can do in building to move forward. It also does make it extremely hard to build moving forward. You guys now have an extreme amount of pressure. So I'm excited to see the further developments. And it sounds like you guys are continuing to build out these measures and learn the best way to develop and promote security on the Binance Smart Chain.
For sure.
Yeah, I really appreciate you joining us today, John. I'm sure we'll speak in the future, and I'm looking forward to further developments to come out of Mound and PancakeBunny.
For sure. It's been a pleasure speaking here. Thanks for having me, Greg.
Of course. Until next time.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel because we're just getting started with events of this nature. We're going to be holding monthly summits like this, covering all sorts of projects in the future. We also do one-on-one project discussions. We've had some notable projects such as Venus, Baby Doge, Crypto Blades, and those videos are all available on the YouTube. So be sure to subscribe for that kind of content because there'll be a ton more coming. And again, thank you everybody for joining the Security Summit. Be sure to stay safe out there.